As you know, I've been studying mind control and MK Ultra. I came across some really interesting articles at the beginning of the month, and I'd like to read you the headlines of these articles. The first one is, U.S. torture tactics borrowed from Communist China. Guantanamo Bay interrogation based on faulty Chinese communist. U.S. interrogation model, Chinese-Korean war techniques. Bush borrows communist torture tactics. Report, interrogation methods at Guantanamo taken from Chinese. Bush borrows Red China torture techniques. Chinese methods used to interrogate Guantanamo detainees. The Manchurian interrogation chart. Guantanamo training tactics of Communist China. So what these articles are about is this chart. This chart is called Coercion Management Techniques, and it says Bitterman's Chart of Coercion. So this chart is being used in Guantanamo for training to interrogate. Now, the freaky thing about this is its origin. It used to be called Communist Coercion Methods for Eliciting Individual Compliance. So the origin of this chart comes from this report, and this comes from the United States Air Force in 1957. It was written by Albert D. Bitterman. It's called Communist Attempts to Elicit False Confessions from Air Force Prisoners of War. The only change made in the chart presented at Guantanamo was dropped the original title, Communist Coercive Methods for Eliciting Individual Compliance. And this was changed to Coercive Management Techniques. So I'm going to go over this chart, but first I want to make a couple comments. Well, first, this chart was never intended for interrogation. It's a list of communist brainwashing techniques used in the Korean War. So what the media didn't pick up on is that the report, the chart, the brainwashing techniques were all directly linked to the origin of the CIA brainwashing program, MKUltra. So this chart comes from this report, Communist Attempts to Elicit False Confessions from Air Force Prisoners of War, and notice it says false confessions. So why are we using this chart to elicit real confessions? You see, it's brainwashing to get false confessions, not real confessions. It's not interrogation. So I'm going to read you the first couple paragraphs of this report. The United States Air Force has expended considerable effort to get a full, accurate, and meaningful account of what happened to its personnel who were captured in Korea. I have been associated with these studies since their beginnings 3 years ago. Of the 235 Air Force men who were returned by the Chinese Communists after the Korean Armistice 2 years after, in the case of 15 of these men, about half had some direct personal experience with communist attempts to extort false confessions. We know one airman died during such an attempt. There may have been others. So during the Korean War, there were United States Air Force men captured and given brainwashing techniques by the Korean and Chinese. And in the United States, we started to see these prisoners of war commit to war crimes they hadn't committed and also siding with the Communist Party. So the U.S. government and military saw their own men admit to things that they did not do. And it really upset them. How could the Korean and Chinese force someone to drop their political allegiance and confess things that they did not do? Now, they must have had some kind of mind control technique that we didn't have. So the U.S. government saw that the Koreans and Chinese had something that we didn't have. They knew how to mind control people. And this is actually where the MKUltra program was started. This is the reason why we started this program in the first place. So the word brainwashing originally started in regards to the prisoners of war in Korea. So really, the word brainwashing originates from the techniques on this chart. So here we are in 2007 using the same techniques used in the Korean War to brainwash prisoners of war, except for we don't call it brainwashing, we call it interrogation. So could it be that the term interrogation is just being used as a euphemism for brainwashing? So a point I want to bring up about this is that these techniques are not fast torture techniques to elicit a confession. They're actually spread over a really long period of time to degrade the person and break the person down until he or she can be controlled like an animal. So these methods are being taught in Guantanamo as being ways of interrogating. What do you think about that? And doesn't this seem like torture to you? Because they actually argue this. They say that it's not causing bodily damage and it's not causing permanent psychological damage, but how can it not cause permanent psychological damage? I'd like to know what you think, so post a comment. So in a future video, I'm going to be talking about how psychiatrists have worked on a way to mind control people by implanting microchips or electronics into the brain. And I'm also going to be doing a video about how emotions work. So you might want to stick around because I'll be back. So please subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. Post a comment because I'll be back. Thanks. And also rate my video. Rate my video. Thank you. So I'm going to go over this chart now, and there are 8 methods of coercion to elicit compliance. The first one here is,
for more great videos like this one, check out the PsycheTruth channel on YouTube.